So hi, everybody. I'm Paige Singleton. I'm your customer success consultant from Turnitin. And my role at Turnitin is to help people to use our software successfully. So that's why we like to come in and do these webinars to help you implement Turnitin. I am going to ask that you mute your microphones. So if everybody will take a minute, and what you'll want to do is hover over the bottom of your screen and you can just mute your microphone. And if you don't mute it, I can mute it for you, so don't worry about that. The reason we do this is because we're recording. You will not want to have your microphone, nor will you want to have your video on during the webinar. Now, that if you need to ask a question, though, what you'll have to do, there's two ways to ask a question. One would be to either put a question in the chat window, or you can. And remember, I'm turning off some videos and some cameras for you guys so that we can take those out of the video. So please be mindful of that. So it looks like I got one or two people more that have their cameras on. There you go. There we go. If you need to ask a question, please feel free to put it into the chat window, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question to me, which means that I don't mind you interrupting me at any point in time. And because it always takes a minute for you to unmute and ask a question, if you want to do that, don't worry about interrupting me. Just interrupt me and say, hey, Paige, can you go back? I don't mind doing that at all. So ask the questions whichever way that you need to. Now, our goal today in this training, this is an advanced training, so the assumption is you've kind of used Turnitin maybe a little bit in the past, and you're wanting to get some more advanced information about how to use the tool. So I've got showing on your screen and mine is your instance of Blackboard, and I have an assignment pulled up that is a Turnitin assignment. And I'm doing this to show you what my main focus for the day is going to be. There's going to be two areas where I'm going to focus in on. One is going to be the Turnitin libraries. This is where you're going to manage QuickMarks, rubrics, and peer mark questions. So I'm going to spend a lot of time in these libraries. Also, where I'd like to spend some time with you today is on this online grading report. A lot of people don't even realize that it's there. It's got some very useful information for you that can help you as you're delivering assignments. You've got a lot of statistics that you have that are built in to Turnitin. And then there's a third place I want to spend time on. So I'm going to spend time with libraries, going to spend time with the online grading report. And then the third place I'd like to spend time is when you create a new assignment, a new Turnitin assignment, you actually have three different assignment choices. The paper assignment, which is the regular assignment that most people create, is a paper assignment. But you also have peer mark assignments and revision assignments. So I would like for you to walk away with a sense that you know what those are and how you can use those in your classroom. So three different goals that we have today. So where I thought that we would start is I went ahead and I built some assignments for us. And my key purpose for building these is because the first thing I want to talk to you about is rubrics. And most of the time in our regular training, we only get a chance to talk about just a regular rubric. So I'm going to start from scratch, building an assignment, and show you where the rubrics come in at the assignment creation. And then I want to delve in a little bit more into the four types of rubrics that you can actually create in Turnitin. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going through the motions of creating a paper assignment. And I want to show you that right here, when you create the paper assignment, under these additional options, you have an option down here that says to attach a rubric or a grading form. And when you go into this option here, you select your rubric from the list, but the way that you get that rubric into the list is by using what's called Rubric Manager, which is right here. Now, I do want to tell you one little thing I discovered today because I was in here and I was playing around. This link right here, find a rubric that's right for your assignment and Turnitin Teaching Tools. If you hit that link right now, you're not going to find the page, the web page. Turnitin is updating our web pages, and this one today I figured out, oh, that link does not work. So I have reported that. So don't worry about reporting it. I've reported it. I'll follow up on that, make sure that that gets fixed. Okay, so rubrics. I'm going to launch the rubric form manager so that you can see what it looks like. Normally in my trainings, I briefly go through this rubric form manager and kind of show you what you can do, but right now we're going to delve a little bit more deeply into it. Over in the left-hand corner, upper corner, this is your rubric manager menu where you can create a new rubric or you can create a new grading form. Now, when you want to create a new rubric, like here, if you hit that button, it allows you to put the rubric name into the name field, and then you fill in the criterion, and then notice that this is a weighted rubric, so I could give my rubric some weights. And I put numbers into the scales. I'm going to open up one for you so you can see it. But I want you to notice that down here at the bottom, there's 3 buttons, and the percentage here stands for the standard rubric. We call this the standard rubric or a weighted rubric. But if I change to this rubric, notice how the values of the point values move into the cells. And then I want you to notice that when I click this third option here, notice that the point values are removed altogether. So when I say that we have 4 different types of rubrics in Turnitin, what I'm actually saying is that we have 3 different types of rubrics. We have standard, custom, and this is called a qualitative rubric, which is a rubric that does not allow you to grade on it. But you also have, in addition to that, this grading form option here. And watch what happens when I switch over to a grading form. Notice that now you're not in a matrix style environment. Now what you can do is put in criteria with descriptions. And down here there's a button, a little checkbox that if you check it, it enables scoring. So I thought the best way to really show you how these 3 worked was to show you how you grade with them first, and then we'll come back in here and make sure that you understand how you put your information in. So I'm going to go back into this content area. And the first thing I want to show you is the grading form. So I created an assignment, and on that assignment here, I attached a grading form to it. Now to show you that, notice that when you come into an assignment, it loads the student to submit on behalf of a student page. So what I'm going to do is, and I really don't like this, and I tell people that I train I don't like this. When you open up an assignment like this one, when I hit view complete, it opens up submit on behalf of a student. So what I do is I change that to multiple file upload, and it loads this page. And then I can go to assignment inbox. And this shows me if students have submitted the students that have. So I'll be using that workflow to pop into assignments. Now notice that on the assignment here, this is my assignment that has a grading form. That's why I put GF into the name. If I go down, notice that sample grading form here is the grading form that I've attached to this assignment. Which means that when I open up the student paper, and to open up the student paper in Feedback Studio, what I'm going to do is click the similarity percentage. This is going to open up the paper in Feedback Studio. And now I want to go check out the rubric. Well, in Feedback Studio, the rubric icon is this blue matrix icon. And notice then that sample grading form is the grading form that has loaded into this. If I wanted to make edits to that grading form, or I wanted to change it here, there is a cogwheel in the upper part of the rubric button. So if I click that, it opens up another version of Rubric Manager. This is the version of Rubric Manager that is in this document viewer. And notice that it will kind of give me I did not, when I created this, I didn't name anything. I just choose criterion. Notice that this one is enabling scoring. Notice here that it's attached to the assignment. I could unattach it if I want to, or I could change it. Notice that in the menu of this, I get the same options that I had when I was back inside of Rubric Manager, back in the assignment in Blackboard. So this is a Rubric Manager that's inside of Feedback Studio, Turnitin's grading software. This button here is the expander button. This is a way for me to take the grading form or the rubric and expand it into a view that's bigger, that is a little bit easier for me to grade. So I could start grading the student here. On a grading form, to grade the student, you just pop in a score and you add a comment. You don't have to add the comment if you don't want to. For each criterion, then you can give them a score. I have a lot of professors that really like this because it's a more free-form way of grading. And what they also like about this particular grading form is that they can add their own comments directly to the criterion, which you can't do when you're on a rubric. So both of those aspects of this they like. Now, remember that I don't have to add the scores here. I can add them in the side panel, so I'll show you that too. I'm going to hit apply to grade, and notice that that 20 and that 15 are going to load into these score boxes here. And now the score of the paper is starting to be scored. I've got 35 points that have been assigned to this so far. I can also assign point values and comments within the right-hand panel. So I'm going to hit enter. And I can also put in a comment if I want to. So this is how a grading form works. It's a nice piece of software that is that you can use to grade papers when you just want to freely grade. Okay, so questions about the grading form? Okay, I'm going to apply that to the grade, make that 75, and please remember that whenever you're working in Turnitin, once I close this off, then here the grade is going to pop in right here. If it doesn't pop in right away, I can refresh the refresh this page. Here, let me move my photograph and we'll refresh that. And now the grade will come in to Turnitin. Oop, I don't like that page. I go to multiple file upload, assignment inbox, and now I've got this paper graded. So that's a grading form. Okay, now second type of tool that you can use. So Taylor is telling us grading forms are also called holistic rubrics in the literature. Thank you, Taylor, for pointing that out to us so that they can find those. Okay, next assignment that I've given you, and I'll begin. Yes, go ahead.
Could you, I think you went a little too fast. I didn't see where you switched it from the normal grading rubric that's a grid icon, a grid format, to the other one. Could you quickly show me that?
I can. Okay, so when you're creating your assignment in Turnitin.com, and we go here. So apologize if I went too fast. Please slow me down if I do. When I'm creating the assignment and I'm in optional settings here, then when you come down to online grading and if your grading form has already been created, you can select it from your list. If the grading form has not been created, you launch Rubric Manager here, and in the menu icon, you click Create New Grading Form. When you click Create New Grading Form, you put the name of the grading form in the title field, and then you put your criterion in. Now with the criterion, you can put as many as you would like. This plus sign here at the bottom will add criterion to the rubric also, or to this grading form, or this plus sign here will. So I can add on as many as I like to. So does that help?
Okay, all right. So the default option is that grid icon that we're all used to.
Yes, that's the creating.
That's a normal rubric. Okay, gotcha. Okay, and I thought you grabbed it from somewhere else. Okay, thank you.
And what I guess, and I'm so glad you asked that, because I find that a lot of professors would use grading forms over rubrics if they knew that they were in here, and they are in here. So I want to make sure that you are well aware that they're in here, if that makes sense. The other thing that I have noticed with professors when they're in these grading forms and rubrics is that they don't realize that they can change how the scoring works on the rubric. So the set default is a standard rubric. It's a weighted rubric where each row is weighted with a certain percentage value, and each column is given a point value, and then the system calculates that grade. I taught mathematics for 23 years. And if I had been using this system to grade my papers, which I would have because I like the way the grading works, I would have switched over to the second form of rubric, which actually puts the point values into these cells. And the reason I would have used this one is because I think it's easier for students to understand. So basically what you do is you assign point values to each of the cells. I'm going to actually add a fourth Oop, I didn't mean to add a fifth one, but that's okay. We'll do 5 points here and put 0 points here. So see how I'm putting the point values into the cells? Whichever point value you put into the cell, whichever one is the highest, the rubric is going to use that, the system, to determine the overall point value of the rubric. So right now I'm putting in my point values for this one. So I'll put a 2 down here. And then for the third row, I think, hold on just a second. I'm going to have to start over. I'm very sorry about that. I must have hit something on my mouse. So again, I'll show you what I'm doing again. I'm again going into a paper assignment. And in the paper assignment, what I'm going to want to do is go to the rubrics and go down to the rubric here, and I'm going to launch Rubric Manager. I'll show you a shortcut to Rubric Manager here in a minute. And again, the default that it's loading is the standard rubric. And when you say create new rubric, the default is the standard rubric. But I'm going to switch over to this custom rubric, and I'm going to start assigning point values. Now, as I'm assigning these point values, the system is calculating the overall number of points that are associated to this rubric. Right now, the points that are associated to this rubric are 20 plus 15. This is a 35-point rubric. If I go into this one and I put 50 points here, and then I go down points, 40, 30, what I have just done is added 50 points to my rubric. So now my rubric is worth 50 plus 20 is 70, 85. And then if I do this, I will have a 100-point rubric. So as you're preparing your rubric, keep in mind the point values that you list as the highest point values for each row. Those are going to be summed, and that is how the overall value of this rubric is going to be determined by Turnitin. My value of this rubric right now is sitting at 100 points. Okay, so questions about how the rubric point values are created. You put your name in the top field, you put your criteria and your description and your scales in just like you normally do. What I want to show you now is how this rubric grades on the flip side. So what I'm going to do is close it. So if there's no questions about how the rubric is created, I'm going to close it and show you how we score with it. Remember again that this is a custom rubric.
Paige, I have a quick question about the grading form.
Sure.
When faculty use that, do they usually, for the criterion, do they just put the highest possible outcome that they expect and then grade based on that? Or, how do they use that criterion?
So the way that I've seen it, let's say, for instance, you were going to put in a research paper and you were going to grade a research paper with a grading form, then your criterion would probably be your thesis statement, maybe the introduction, or maybe this is an essay. This is probably more like an essay. And this is the body of your paper, and then I would probably add a criterion for the conclusion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's more like parts of the paper.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a more holistic, and I think that's why you call it a holistic. It's because it's looking at the paper more holistically and looking at its parts, and you're just assigning point values to each part. Now, I could have a rubric that has the same criterion.
Right.
But in my rubric, I would have descriptors that describe how many points get associated with this description, how many points are associated if you meet this descriptor. So it's just a different way of scoring or looking at it.
Gotcha.
So does that help?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next question from Anita says, does it always go from high to low? So scale 1 is highest. No, you don't have to do it that way. So I think what you're asking me, Anita, is that if I'm in a rubric here and I'm in a custom rubric, if I were to put 5 points here, 10 points here, and 20 points here, Turnitin would recognize that top row as a 20-point row. How many criteria can we create? I don't believe that there is a max. So I can sit here and just keep adding criteria. And, oh, actually I was adding scales. So I have 8 scales. And if I want to add criteria here, I can just keep going. So right now I've gone down to 10. So I know you can do at least 10. So you just keep adding as much as you want to. I think your choice really between the grading form and the rubrics is, do you want a matrix style rubric or would you rather just freely grade? And you can do either one. Eek, I cannot imagine having something that large. I agree. And I wouldn't want to score something that large. I think it would take forever. Okay, so any other questions? Your questions are awesome. So keep me on track and ask your questions. Make sure that we explain this well. So are you ready to see how the grading the custom grading rubric works? And I'll show you the standard and the custom rubric so you can see the difference between the two. So let me go to where I created the assignment. So I'm going to go back to my assignment page. Okay. Now I created this assignment. GF means grading form. That's the one I just showed you. CR means custom rubric. A custom rubric in Turnitin language is the one where the point values are in each cell. So I'm about to show you that one. So we're going to hit view complete. Again, remember this takes me to that page that I really wish it didn't take me to. I want to see the assignment inbox. I have to go 2 clicks to get there. But this is the assignment inbox. And now I'm going to open up this paper. And I need to check and make sure I close the other one I did since I'm pulling around in here. So now I'm in the Turnitin paper. And this time the rubric that I associated is the custom rubric. So I want you to notice, now see how I have these point values here? It's not as easy to see that this is a custom rubric, but look at the point value of 165 points. And then you can see where it, now look how I'm just kind of scoring it using these sliders. But if you want to see the entire rubric, just click the expander button here. This will give you a view of the entire rubric. This rubric is a long rubric. Notice then that this rubric was assigned 10 points, 8 points, and 6 points for this top row. I think if you go over, you have 0 points. That means that that row is worth 10 points. So somebody with a calculator, 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 30 plus another 20 plus 10 plus 15. I think if you add all of those top rows together, you're going to get 165 points. And that's where the 165 came from. Then as you're scoring, that counts for 20 points. Now I'm adding 30 points. Every time I hit a block, I'm adding a certain number of points to the paper. I love this rubric. I probably would have really have used this rubric if it had been my class, because the students don't have to do much math to figure out where your scores came from. That sometimes those percentage-based rubrics they have to figure out. So then I hit apply to grade and I hit close. And now let's apply that to the, oh, now this is what it's done. So my rubric was worth 165 points. The score that I gave the student was 103 points out of 165 points. But when I created this assignment, I only let the assignment be worth 100 points. So what's happening here is that Turnitin is just applying a simple proportion to this and saying that 103 points out of 165 points is the same thing as 62 points out of 100 points. And if I wanted to, I could overwrite this grade and I could say, well, I'll just go ahead and give them a 65 if you want to do that. Okay, so any questions then about the custom rubric? So the question that I have is there any way to modify the point total to be less than the highest total value? I've had good luck with a bonus points category in the rubric. Yeah, I can totally see a bonus points category. So, is there any way to modify the point total to be less than the highest total value? I would have to think about that. I'm a math person, so I could probably figure out a way. Could you put, when you do your bonus rubric, do you do all zeros? So I'm thinking that if you gave the, I'll have to think about that. Let me think about that. I'm sorry.
Paige, can you add a grade above the 100? Because Turnitin automatically, makes it proportional.
Yes.
Can you add a grade? Like, can you put 102?
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
I should be able to. It's got to be an integer value.
Sure.
Let's check that and see if 102 works. And the other question that we had was, can you show the rubric again? And the answer is yes. So let me show that rubric to you again. So is this what you want to see, Anita? The selecting blocks part. So I'm just clicking on those blocks. It only allows me to select one per row, by the way. Does that answer your question too? Okay, anybody else?
Can you remind me, it's been a while since I've tried, but does it accept negative values? Like if I did -5?
Okay, my understanding is that in the grading form, that has been a feature that was added in the last update.
Okay.
I have never tried it.
Okay.
So we need to go in there and try it. But my understanding to that, and we'll pop in there in a minute. I'll open it back up and we'll test it and see if we can get a negative value in there. Can you put, is this the rubric I created? I actually grabbed this rubric off our online grading when I was at the access. I was going to try to do that, by the way, today, and that's why I didn't get a good rubric for you. Is this the rubric that I created? So I didn't create it, but Tiffany did. Does that answer that question, Anita? I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. Let me, does anybody else want to see this rubric again? Okay, so we'll go back into that grading form.
Paige, while you go into that grading form, out of curiosity, so you have kind of like an online resource that we can look at rubrics. What if we had faculty that are really awesome and they want to share their custom rubrics to Turnitin? Is there a process, a vetting process to add something they've done to that database that you guys have?
I know that our marketing department handles that, but I would have to check that out for you.
Okay.
But yeah, just I can find out what the vetting process is, but right now my link doesn't work, so we can't go to that link, unfortunately. But I would love to see more rubrics get added to that site. Let's open up the grading form real quick. And the question was, can you put negative values in there? And I believe that the answer is yes. Yes. So if you wanted to design your rubrics backwards, I would put a criterion in there worth 100 points to start with, and that you just give them 100 points, and then after that, you take off points. Does that make sense? Like you'd want to start your students off with a certain number of points. So you'd have one criterion where you assign those points. And then after that, you would have all the rest of the criterion that would be minusing. And you could definitely use a minus system as opposed to a plus system.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also when you're first creating the grading form, not doing it through here,
right?
Will it accept the negative values there upon creation, or only in this when you're grading per paper?
Yeah, let me show you the creation of it again, just so that you're aware how it works. Because I remember when I first learned to do this, this was a source of frustration for me. So of figuring this out. When you're working with a grading form, I'm going to go into Launch Rubric Manager for you and show you the grading form. And I want you to notice that when you create a new grading form here, notice that there's no point values in here. So what allows the grading form to work is this enable scoring button down here at the bottom. So you're not setting up point values within here, which is why I was saying, and I may not have been making much sense, that if I were going to use a negative system, I would put a total points field as my first field. And then in my second field, I would start with my actual criteria. And when you go to score it, the first thing you would do is assign 100 points to your student, if that's how much the paper's worth. And then for thesis, you would either add points or subtract points from their total. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, and I think I meant to say grading rubric instead of form.
Okay, so the grading rubric, which one would you like to see?
Oh, just any of them. Anyone that shows all the columns and rows.
Okay,
Well,
so
I'm just curious if, because we've had that problem before that it doesn't accept negative values. So I was just curious what the update.
oh, you're talking about here in
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
like trying to put a negative in here.
Like a -3.
I don't think
Or
so.
if you
I
did
think
that, or there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not accepting negatives.
Right, okay.
So you can use negatives on the forms, but not here.
Okay, great.
And one thing that you did mention just a minute ago is that can you share rubrics? You know that you can share rubrics within UH, is that correct?
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have done that, but whenever you're working in Rubric Manager, if you come here to the Import Export button, you can export a rubric. So I could export the rubric. Oop, it's not wanting to export because I don't have anything saved. So I can export a rubric and then I can send, see it's downloading that file, I can send that file to someone else and they can upload it and use it. So if you ever wanted as a department to develop common rubrics that were used across departments, you could use Turnitin to do that.
This is good also for large sections that have TAs.
Yes.
You can export, because rubrics are attached to individuals, right? They're not attached to courses.
That's correct.
So if you had a course with 3 TAs, for example, you would need to export the rubric that you created and have them import it that you can all grade using the same rubric.
So what Taylor was saying was that rubrics are associated to the user. So when you create a rubric, it's your rubric. And it's always associated to your account. So if, let's say down the road, your Houston decided to change LMSs, well, as long as you use the same email addresses, the rubrics are going to stay with your account, regardless of where you use them. So it's a nice little feature of Turnitin that these rubrics are associated there. Now, Taylor, you sent a resource. Did that hook up the rubric link? See, and that's the link that they need to give me for that link that's inside of. So this is a link that Taylor just put out. If anybody wants it, you can grab it from the rubric library or grab it from the chat window. And then if you find a rubric that you like and you can download it. So it gives you this. And then you can download the rubric here and you can upload it into your resources. So that being said, I do want to show you one other thing before we change topics to QuickMarks. Everything that I have just done was in Rubric Manager. So Rubric Manager, let's say that you're not in an assignment and you wanted to go ahead and just put your rubrics in. If you go to libraries here, Rubric Form Manager is the second manager that's in your libraries. So you don't have to be in an assignment to work with Rubric Manager. You can come to your libraries, go to Rubric Form Manager, and you can add a new rubric or create a new grading form. This feature right here for duplicates is very important. Taylor was explaining to you that when you create a rubric, the rubric is yours. If you then send that rubric to somebody else and they upload it, they're not going to be able to edit it. You can only edit rubrics that you yourself have created. So that being said, if you ever download a rubric or get a rubric from another source, and when you open it up, you can't edit it. See how this one right here, I can't rename this rubric, I can't delete it, I can't go into the cells, I can't change anything about it. But if I wanted to change some things about the rubric to make it more my own, what I could do is duplicate it here. And after I duplicate it, I could put my own name on it or title it the way that you want it to. And once I save it, it's now mine. And my save button should be down here in the iframe. So I'm going to click save. It's down here in the lower right-hand corner. And now this rubric becomes an editable rubric. So when I come back into the rubric, notice I can now rename it and I can delete it, or I can click into the cells and I can change it. So if you ever run across a rubric that you want to modify, but it won't allow you to modify, the system will not, you're locked out, then all you need to do is duplicate it. If you want to export the rubric, you can export it, send it to someone else, and then they can import the rubric into their own system.
So let's say this essay rubric is attached to an assignment. When it's attached to a live assignment, will going through libraries and clicking where you are now will allow you to edit, or will it give you a warning saying, nope, you can't edit it because it's attached to an assignment?
Yeah, it will warn you, but you can edit things, but it also then will edit anywhere that rubric is attached to anything. It's going to change it on those. So really, once you start using a rubric, you don't really want to edit it.
But it would, doing it this way, you could edit it still.
So if I go into my sample grading form, remember that I have used that sample grading form, right? So it's not going to let me rename it or delete it or change it in any way, even though I created it. So in order to do that, you would have to duplicate it. Now, I will say this about these rubrics, and this is something I've complained about. So you can't take these, once you start using a rubric, you can't take it out. So that being said, if you're one of people like me, I'm a little bit on the OCD side. I like to have things nice, neat, and organized. I can't now take this one out without taking it and disassociating it from wherever I've associated it to. Does that make sense? So this one's in here. It's permanent. It's not going anywhere. So just be careful when you're creating rubrics and using them, that don't start using a rubric unless you're really sure you want to keep it for the long haul, is my advice. Okay, any other questions on these? Okay, so Alinda, did I answer your question? Can you talk about how the UH faculty can share rubrics? So sharing rubrics is importing and exporting. So you'll export the rubrics, send the file over to the other person. They can just import it into the system. It's very simple. By the way, when you import, all you do is come in and whatever file they have, you just select the file and pull it in. So it's a very simple process to go in and import rubrics. So I'll even show you this one. I'll pull in this narrative rubric here. Oh, import failed, so we won't pull that one in. Let's try another one. Let's try this one. That one failed. Uh-oh. I forgot I had that sample grading form. There, that one works. So we'll clear this one out. So when you select a file and you pull it in, you select it, pull it in, and then just go back, and now my rubric that I just pulled in has been pulled into the system. Okay, any other questions before we hit QuickMarks? Okay, QuickMarks. QuickMarks are one of the main reasons why people like to use Turnitin. And in our regular trainings, we usually focus in on how to use QuickMarks, but we don't talk much about how to manage them. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how you're going to manage your QuickMarks and how to get the most out of them, what I would do if I were in your shoes. So in Feedback Studio, your QuickMarks are these marks here. When I click on the check mark, and notice that the QuickMarks are organized into sets. Now, one of the things that I have requested, because I get a lot of requests, these are the QuickMarks QuickMarks sets that come with the software. If you ever see some of these sets and you want them taken out, we can do that for you. So if they become cumbersome, let me know and we can look at how to get some of those sets out of your system. This right here is sets that have been created. Like this is a punctuation set that's pretty good, where I can just drag and drop them. If you're going to use QuickMarks, there's a cogwheel here, and this opens up your QuickMark Manager. QuickMark Manager is the place where you go to organize these marks. And I've got a couple of things I want to show you in here that I think is really good. And then I want to go back into Blackboard and show you the library manager. I think the library manager is actually better than this one. If I were doing my QuickMarks, the first thing I would do as an instructor is I would sit down and I would look at my different types of assignments, and I would think, how do I want to organize my QuickMarks so that they're most efficient? I've always thought that I would organize them by assignment type. Like maybe I have a set of QuickMarks that I use for certain different types of essays. One of the professors here, I know you work in health sciences, so you might want to look at your assignments that you're grading with this and say, what types of assignments do I have? For everything that you want to organize, you can create a new set. So maybe I have an argument essay set, and these are the marks that I use whenever I work with argument essays, and then I'm going to save that. Once I've created a new set, my next goal would be to add marks to that set. Okay, so questions so far. The first thing that you would want to do is create sets. You're going to want to put some thought into how you create them. One of the things I had a really hard time with this system getting started was that this menu is used for a lot of things. It's used to create new sets. It's used to upload sets. It's used to download sets, like somebody can send you their set and you can use their set so you can share these QuickMark sets. Another thing though is it's also used to display the marks within a set. So if I select, like this is the set that I just created, if I select that set, notice that up here it's going to give me the name of the set and it's going to list all the QuickMarks in the set. Well, there's not any. So one of the first things that you would want to do is to add marks to your set. Okay, so questions so far about how this menu is organized. You've got commands up at the top, then you have your list of sets, and if you click on a set, that gives you all of the marks that are within the set. I'm putting up my empty set, and now I'm going to start adding marks to the set. First way to add a mark to a set. What if you want to add an existing mark? So what if there's a mark that's in the system and you know that that mark is about awkward sentences and you know it's already in there, you don't want to create it yourself. So in the search bar up here, you can type in a word that is part of the descriptor of the set. So awkward is in the description, so I typed in that word. Awkward, the word awkward is also found in each of these other set QuickMarks. If I find the mark that I would like to add to the set, I just add it to the set. Now, what it's showing me here, add to set, and then I select the set that I want to add it to. So over here in this panel, what I'm seeing is the name of the mark, and now I'm seeing to which sets this mark has already been added to. Okay. And notice how it switched me to search results over here when I did that. So now if I want to go back to that set, I have to go back to the menu and select the set again. The set name is at the top, and now awkward as a member of the set. Okay, questions so far? Okay. If I wanted to put another mark in there, I could type in a descriptor, find the mark that I want, select it, and add it to the set. But notice that when I search, I get search results here. So I'm going to add to the set, pick the set that I want, but when I go back to the search results, I then have to bring back up argument essay to see that that's been added to the set. The other way that you can add a mark to the set is by just clicking on this plus sign, and you can put in the title of the mark. So maybe you want a mark that has your office hours in it, and then you can add your office hours and you can save it. Now this mark has been added to that set, and then I could take the mark and I could add it to any other set that I wanted to. So I can add a mark, a quick mark, to multiple sets. Okay, questions so far? This QuickMark Manager is not my favorite. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that, and I'm going to close out Feedback Studio, and I'm going to show you the other QuickMark Manager. And I want you to try to see how this one is organized. And I think it actually, to me, it makes a little bit more sense because in this QuickMark Manager, you're not having to always go back to that set, to that menu and switch around. Okay, so notice where I'm at. I'm in an assignment and I went to that Libraries tab. And in the Libraries tab, what I showed you before was Rubric Form Manager. So this is how you use rubrics. Now I'm going to show you QuickMark Manager. QuickMark Manager in the libraries is actually pretty simple to use. What it does is in the first column, it lists all of your sets. If you select a set in this column, then in the second column, all of the marks for that set are going to be listed. So I could go back to the academic integrity set. I can go to commonly used set, and now the marks are all appearing. Once I have all the marks appearing, if I select a specific mark, then the marks descriptor is going to display in the third column. If I want to make any kind of changes to the mark itself, I can go to this Actions button and I can add this mark to another set. I can create a new set, or in the other, if I click on Other, I can say Remove from this set. So there's all these different things that I can do with this mark. Add it to a new set, create a new set, or remove it from this set. Okay, questions so far? Okay. Up here at the top of the columns, this plus sign will let you add a new set. This plus sign will let you add a new mark to that set. So you put the title and the description in and you click Save. I find this particular rubric manager to be a lot easier to navigate because you're not having to go back and forth so much. And right here in this button over to the side, this is where you can import a set from a colleague or you can export. So if I want, after I create my argument essay set, I can select it. I can go here, I can export it. Notice that down in the bottom here, I'm getting this I wonder if y'all can see, make sure that y'all can see this. See how it says QMS? It's a QMS file. I can take that file, don't try to open it. All you want to do is take it, attach it to an email, send it to somebody, and they can then import it into their system, and you can then share QuickMarks. One thing that I have noticed that I have so many departments that what they use this for is they create common marks across the department, and then throughout maybe it's the entire English department, they use a set of markings throughout each and every course, and the students get used to the same marks, and it really helps the students so that everything is aligned and standardized. Okay, so questions about the QuickMark Manager.
So you really can't delete all those 6th to 8th grade, 9th to 12th?
We would have to, see how they're all locked?
Yeah.
I would have to work with you, Taylor, to get those out.
Okay. Because I'm like you, I'm pretty OCD.
Yeah, I'm pretty OCD. I like for things to be really well organized. This would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
I do know that the request has been made to shift all of these to the bottom of the list. And so that then the instructor would have an alphabetized list of their own, and then they'd have the others at the bottom if they wanted them. But right now, yeah, this would drive me crazy.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. Anybody, any other questions? Because that was a lot easier than going through rubrics. So that makes me worried. Actually, I don't think this is too hard. I hope that most of you have used the QuickMarks because they're fabulous. And they're the reason people use the software. This layout is, you like this layout right here, the one in libraries? Yeah, see, I do too. Absolutely. And this is what I use because I don't have to go back and forth so much. Okay, the other thing I want to show you in here, and I'm going to move away from the libraries a little bit because I have to organize my time, and if I want to show you something, this is what I want to show you. I'm not sure we'll make it to PeerMark today, but Taylor, if y'all ever want a PeerMark session on just PeerMark, I'll do that for you, no worries, if people want to use it. I do want to go to the assignment inbox, and I want to show you the online grading report because we don't have very many people that realize that this is there. So to show it to you, I set it up in the first assignment so that you could get a better idea of what it looks like. So I'm going to go to this first assignment here, open it up. Again, it opens up to the submit page, which drives me crazy. So I just couple of clicks later, and I'm at the assignment inbox. Now, I'm going to go to the online grading report, and I want you to notice what it's giving to you. If you are using QuickMarks, Rubrics, and E-Rater, so Taylor says, yes, we would love a peer mark and revision assignment session. Oh, Taylor, you and I can set that up, no worries. And then you'll have a nice recording too that you can post. And that one usually doesn't take but about 30 minutes. So it's not a very long webinar. Notice here in the online grading report though, you can see your QuickMarks. So if you're using QuickMarks on your to grade papers, you're going to get a list of your students, then you're going to get a detailed list of the different marks that you've used. So I used here, when I graded this paper, I used some marks, composition marks, and it's telling me that the mark that I used was the awkward mark. So what I'm telling you is this. When you're setting up your QuickMark sets, be very thoughtful about it, because if you're really thoughtful about how you're doing it, after you use the QuickMark sets, you can then use these data tools, which will tell you which marks you use the most out of which sets. And you can look at that and you can say, oh, you know what, my students are really having trouble with awkward sentences. And then you can start targeting that area as an instructor. So again, in order to use this, though, you really have to be thoughtful about the sets that you create and which marks you're using so that you can see the data that's coming out of here. Now, I'm going to, yes.
Paige, I have where did you get that? I'm looking at our own Turnitin kind of layout, and I don't see, okay, yeah, that's where I see that. Okay, so how did we get to that?
I clicked on online grading.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And then that pulls me into this. And I want you to notice that when I'm in here, I hit the QuickMarks tab. But you can also hit the Rubric tab. And in this case, I was using a grading form, and this was my grading form. These are all my criteria that I created. And what Turnitin is going to tell you is for this student, this is how many points that you gave them in each criteria. And this is the class average for that particular assignment. So what you can start seeing then is not just that I gave 6 points to this student, but on average, I gave 5 points to, as if maybe that goes down or up. So you can start seeing some data about your particular grading forms and rubrics that you're using. And it can be very powerful for you as an instructor. You can also get the data off of your E-Rater marks. And when you come into E-Rater, for this particular one, I had the grammar, mechanics, and style turned on. And if I click details, it's going to tell me, oh, this person had a proofread comment. And remember, it's going to give it to me for the entire class. I've just got one student in here, but I'll see all of this data for the entire class. So questions about the data that you can see in the online grading report?
Yeah, is the export report a Excel file or a CSV file?
It's a CSV file that will open up into Excel for you. One thing to tell you about these particular reports, and I'm going to go back. Oh, by the way, this is another thing people don't realize is back here. So let me go back in here. When you're on one of these reports, like if I'm on Rubric and I click Refresh Report, that Refresh Report is only going to export the rubric. Export Report is only going to export the rubric. So to export all three of these, you have to click on each one and export them separately. So just something for you to know about that. And also to refresh. View as, you can do qualitative scores or numerical scores. If you click on the name of the student, I love this. This will reveal to you a portfolio. So if you're using Turnitin for all of your assignments, you can go into a single student and you can view all of their assignments that they've had for this particular class. And it gives you a picture into the student rather than having to go back and forth between assignments for an individual student.
And that works as well on revision assignments? So you can see.
If there's a revision assignment, it would be listed in here as a revision assignment. So notice that these are all of the assignments that I put in for this particular student, and this is all of their scores and their grades. And then I can click and I can open up any of the reports from this field, and it will open this up in Feedback Studio form.
Yeah, I think those reports would be great, again, for large sections with TAs, so that at certain points throughout the semester, you can get them together, look at the reports, and see how they're grading based on the rubric so that there's consistency across.
Yes. And Taylor, remember we had the one professor, and I don't know, I can't remember his name offhand, but the class stats tab disappeared for him. Well, they put
Yes.
that back recently.
Oh, great.
So it's back in there. These class stats, if you download them, they're going to download just into a CSV file, but they give you some really nice stats. Okay, so questions about the online grading report. Okay, one other thing to show you, and then I think we're pretty much done for the day. Don't forget, I show this to people every time, but if you mark all students like this, or you mark a single student, please don't forget you can download reports. Specifically this online grading report that's here, a lot of people miss that because it's not visible until you check a student. So if you check a single student or use this top checkbox to check all students, that online grading report, if I download that for a class, it downloads all of my comments and my rubric grading onto a report for the student. And if I download it for every student, it puts all of that into a zip folder, and it's a beautiful thing. If I were a teacher, I would have definitely have used that. So we have a question. The question is there a way to download or save the similarity report only without the marked assignment? Okay, yes, there is a way to do that. Unfortunately, I can't do it in bulk, which I've complained about. So just letting you know. In order to do that, what you would want to do is come into Feedback Studio, turn off the grading layer, and turn on the similarity layer. And make sure you turn off ETS if you don't want that. Then when you download the report here, the current view report, it's only going to download the red layer for you. So hopefully that answers your question. That question, by the way, was asked privately, so everybody won't see it in the chat window. But the question was, is there a way to download or save the similarity report only without the marked assignment? Unfortunately, I can't do that in bulk, which bothers me because I would really love to be able to do that in bulk. Okay, any other questions? How does all this interface with Blackboard? Everything that you're doing is inside of Blackboard, so I'm not sure. Can you be more specific about what you would like to know? Because this is completely, all of this is completely done within Blackboard. You should never have to go, nope, I think that's my answer. The only thing that you might want to go to Turnitin.com for, by the way, there is a way to directly submit a student paper in Turnitin.com, like a one-off paper, and get a score back for that. So eventually, Taylor, we might want to go over that as well. But I think we're out of time for the day. I hope that this has been helpful for y'all.
Yeah, I think Paige, the feedback I got from the last session was I thought I knew Turnitin, but now I realize that I didn't, because there's so much there that I think a lot of people, even those who have been using it for a long time, aren't really familiar with. So yeah.
And we didn't get to everything, which is so amazing to me. There's so much.
Well, an hour goes by really quickly.
It does. Even when I talk too fast, which I hope I did not talk too fast for y'all. So please let me know if you need anything. Maybe just a quick recap that you covered. Oh, Alinda's asking that. So Alinda, are you saying you think, well, you want me to go back over everything that I covered real quick? Although it's 2 o'clock.
No, I mean, it's fine. I was just thinking, because you covered a lot, which was very extensive. It was great. I just didn't know if that would help anybody.
Oh, it would. It would help us all. Don't forget, we're doing this again in a month.
Oh, perfect.
Will there be a video for the session? Yes, there is going to be a recording. So I will send that to Taylor probably tomorrow, and he'll get that out to y'all whenever he can do so. Anybody else? Okay, now if you think you want to go back, if you didn't attend the first session, which was we call it beginner, but it's also very helpful. Like Taylor said, a lot of people learn some things. So if you didn't see that one, you might want to join us for the next webinar or get a copy of the recording, because that can also help you with more of how we use this stuff.
Yeah, so when I send out this video, I'll include the link to the other one as well, so that if people want to visit that one, they can. So yeah, just to wrap things up, thank you so much again, Paige and Alinda, for hosting this. We really appreciate it. And like she said, we'll be hosting more of these down the road. And it looks like the next one is going to cover peer mark and revision assignment.
Oh, is it? Is that what we're going to do?
If that, well, the next advanced one, we'll do
Yeah, the
those
next
two.
advanced one we'll do peer mark and revision assignment. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.